Hello everyone and welcome to this devlog. It is Wednesday right now, so I'm getting a late start this week. It has just been super busy. I've been a little late on other videos I had to get out and just really haven't had a lot of time to work. So starting a little bit late, but that's okay. One thing I've realized, and if there's one thing I can encourage game dev people who are out there, especially if you feel demotivated or can't work on stuff, is that it's okay. The most important thing you can do when making a game is stick to a schedule. And for me, that's working an hour every morning before I start work. That's how I do it, and that's pretty much the main time I have for game dev. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's totally okay. But because you have that schedule and because you have that commitment, you're gonna continue to make that progress, and you can make it through days where you're not able to do it. So anyway, I've just been super busy and that's why I'm a little late, but I wanted to take this morning to kind of talk through, even if I won't show too much game footage, I wanted to talk through a little bit of what I'm trying to do this week and some of the thoughts I have for game design going forward, especially as it's really time to start getting features into this game. I've spent enough time getting the UI and some of the background stuff. I really want to make the game actually feel better and have more gameplay. So the first and biggest thing that I'm trying to do this week is restructure how levels are designed. And what it is right now is I basically have a timer, and it just randomly spawns an enemy every couple of seconds. And obviously that's a placeholder, but I don't even think that mechanic is scalable. Like, part of what makes bullet hell games and shooter games fun is that you get encounters of a ton of enemies that just come at once that you have to deal with. Like, the difficulty goes up and goes down. There's moments of tension where you're dealing with tons of things. Then there's the lulls in between where you have time to recuperate and heal. Maybe there's a couple enemies on the screen, but they're very easy to kill. And so you want to have that balance between really difficult and really easy and the going back and forth, because it keeps the player engaged. And so I don't think that a mechanic that involves like a timer and randomly spawning enemies is the best way to do that. And so I'm trying to structure my game and my levels around the idea of encounters, is what I'm going to call them. And basically what that is I want each level or each stage, if it's endless mode, to have a certain predefined amount of encounters, probably like 5 or 6. And basically encounters will be things I hand roll with a predefined amount of spawns and enemies. And so when an encounter starts, it'll have sub-timers for each specific enemy and each specific, maybe it's gonna spawn 5 riflemen on this side of the screen and 5 on this side of the screen, and it'll just spawn them out like 1 every second, so that you get this big line of riflemen on both sides. So that'll be things I'm trying to create, like a base encounter that makes it easy to specify like which units and at what times and at what locations get spawned. But the idea is that I want to structure levels as a series of encounters. And once an encounter starts, it'll still need a timer, I think, because you want to try and force the player to finish them off fast enough, or to have the next encounter spawn. So you kind of have a difficulty cap that, one, rewards the player for being better by being able to finish off encounters earlier, but also keeps the player from going too far without progressing if they're not able to finish encounters in time. And then I still think I do want some kind of random spawning or timer, just to make sure that in between encounters there's some units on the screen or something, just to kind of, like I said, give the ebb and flow of gameplay and difficulty. So anyway, all that to say, I really want to spend some time building up what an encounter might look like, and then building up some encounters to actually use in the game to see how it feels. And the idea is that each stage would have an increasing difficulty counter or whatever, and the higher the difficulty, I was thinking of giving each encounter a difficulty rating, like just a number, and that encounter will only spawn if the level you're on or the stage you're on is at the required difficulty level. So harder and harder encounters will continue to spawn as difficulty level rises, and it might spawn multiple encounters at once. So if you have a difficulty level of 5, it could either spawn an encounter of difficulty level 5, or it might simultaneously spawn an encounter of 3 and an encounter of 2 at the same time to kind of mix it together. So I'm still experimenting with what that's going to look like, but I just wanted to give an overview of kind of a game design principle I've been thinking about that I think might really elevate how the game feels and make it both more difficult but a lot more fun for the player. So that's what I'm going to be working on this week on top of finishing up some upgrade stuff. Let me know in the comments below if you feel like that is a good mechanic, if you have suggestions or thoughts on that, because I'd love to hear them and curious what you guys think, but I'll see you later in the video. So today I ended up working on upgrades again, which was not how I wanted to spend the whole day, but it was actually great because I think they are, for the most part, done. Besides adding actually like icons and kind of finishing out some of the content, I think the core functionality of upgrades are done. So I just started a new game and I gave myself 10,000 money. And so if I come here, you'll see I made a couple changes to how upgrades work. One is that I changed how the this level and next level effects were displayed, because for example, here, or let's say, so for damage, right? Each level of damage will give you 5 extra damage, but that doesn't really mean anything if you're just like, if you just see +5 damage because you have no idea how much damage you started with. But now you can see, okay, if I have no upgrades, I have 20 damage, but this next level will give me 5. So it kind of gives you a metric to compare against, so the numbers actually mean something. So you can think, okay, every 4 upgrades, I'm gonna basically double my starting damage, or add like, 20 more damage. Same here. Now with our attack rate, you can see, okay, without an upgrade, I attack once every second, but if I buy this, I'll have 5 or 0.05 seconds taken off every single time. And you can start, kind of gauging the value of each upgrade and what it'll give you. Same with speed, 5 speed on its own doesn't really mean anything, but if you start at 100, all of a sudden it starts to be a little bit more clear. Health was always pretty clear, but so anyway, so this is, I think it's really nice. It works, and they're actually all implemented. I implemented kind of a map between each upgrade and the stat it affects, and that'll need to have a little bit of rework once abilities and weapon upgrades are in there. But I think for now, this works as intended. So let me buy a couple health upgrades, and you should see that. And let me buy 4 upgrades here, so now I'll be able to one-hit the enemies since they have 40 health. And then I'll also buy increased fire rate, so you can see that makes a pretty good difference. And I'll bump my speed up. And so now with all these extra stats, let's buy some more health. You should see, it should be pretty noticeable like how much of a difference it is, and I'll try and cut in some footage of the before and after while we're doing this. So now if I hit continue here, we'll see I have all the extra health. You'll see that I'm attacking way more quickly, like there's a lot of things coming, and I'll one-hit this guy every time I hit him. So every time I hit a rifleman, I'll one-hit them now just because I have more damage and my health is being set correctly. So hopefully for now, upgrades are done. It was a lot of work, probably like, I'd imagine 8 hours total from the UI to getting all of this implemented. But I think it was worth it because it feels really cool, and now you can actually progress in the game. Like, you can actually buy new upgrades. There's actually something to work towards, and they work, and it feels like you're actually getting stronger. So I think this is really cool. And hopefully now, I know I keep saying this, but now we can actually start working on, encounters and some of the other stuff I wanted to get to. So this is what I've been up to today. Alright, so today is Friday, and this is day 2 in a row of getting way more than I thought done, and I'm actually feeling so happy with where things are at. So I was able to actually get the encounter system pretty much totally implemented, so I want to give you a quick run through of how it works. So basically I replaced the current system of randomly spawning enemies after a certain amount of time, just over and over, with the idea of encounters, which I explained earlier. And so what I have is a base encounter scene here that basically just has a node that contains a bunch of spawns. And so the idea is that I can just make a, like a instance of this scene, and I can have a bunch of predefined encounters with different spawns. But because of the way I set up spawns, I didn't even have to change what I already had. You just drag in the enemy scene you want, and you just place the spawns wherever you want, knowing that this is the left side or the right side of the camera. So they'll be spawning off camera and then work their way in. So you just place them and then they just get spawned at the same time. And so here, just as the base encounter scene to have something to build off, I made an encounter which just has 5 different riflemen that spawn kind of in a wave format. But yeah, so if I add more enemies, it's going to be super, super easy to keep making more encounters, because I can just copy this scene and just change the spawns, their location, and what enemies they have, and it is that easy. So I am super happy with how this turned out. And it's going to be really easy next week as I start adding more content and more enemies, just add more encounters, and I can give them a difficulty rating and then start to add some algorithms to determine, you know, what balance of encounters to add and like, you know, how difficult to make it, etc. So those are encounters themselves. The way it's running is I added this encounter manager that basically has an encounter timer. So when the level starts, it preloads in a certain amount of encounters. Right now I have it set to 1, but it'll probably be 5 or 6. And this can be configured, you know, when the level starts, but right now I'm just hard coding it here. And again, I'm just preloading in this single encounter we have. Eventually it'll just grab all the predetermined encounters that could be spawned. So it starts up, it'll load in the set amount of encounters. So if like you have 5, for example, it'll just pick 5 random encounters and load it in, and then it will create those instances but not actually add them to the scene tree. And then it keeps track, it'll spawn 1 encounter at a time, and it keeps track when all of the enemies of that encounter are dead. It'll start a timer for, I think I have 4 seconds right now, and then after that it'll spawn the next encounter. And I think this is going to need some tuning to kind of see how much time should be in between each encounter. But basically all you have to do is make the encounters, it'll just handle automatically loading them in and then popping them into the scene tree whenever it needs to happen. And because each encounter is already created and they're pretty small, there's no delay or anything as it has to actually add these to the tree. So it worked out really well. It's pretty simple. It let me clean up my main scene here and kind of move things down into the encounter manager. And so now I'll just give you a quick gameplay demo to show you how it works. Okay, so you'll see here that I'm playing and the wave just spawned in. And so I can try killing some of these guys and dodging all their bullets. And you can already tell this feels just infinitely better than what we have before. Like there's actually a challenge. There's just more enemies on the screen, so it feels good. And that's actually a pretty difficult encounter to start off with, so it probably would be easier right at the beginning. But I gave myself 10,000 money just to start. But if I bump up my damage, bump up my fire rate, and bump up my well, everything I guess at this point. I can't really upgrade anything else. Okay, so if I do that, so I should be able to just one hit them. I'll try and show you what happens now with the upgrade screen. So I made it that right now it used to be that, oh no, I don't think I'm gonna get this guy. It used to be that, oh, I missed it. Okay, well, anyway, so it used to be that it would throw you into the upgrade screen, you know, when there were enemies on the screen. It would just do it after a set amount of time, and it felt kind of weird. But now it only brings you to the upgrade screen when the encounter is over. And encounters are have logic so that they are over when either all the enemies are dead or all the enemies are off the screen. And so it can handle using both of those to determine when it's done. And right now it's still kind of an abrupt transition. At least it doesn't happen when enemies are still on the screen. But I think maybe this weekend or hopefully next week I can spend a bit of time adding just like a quick animation, like maybe some text that pops up that says all clear, like upgrade screen in 3, 2, 1. Something just to make a little bit more clear to the player what's about to happen. But all that to say, this is nuts, guys. Like there's actually a game loop. Like you spawn, you can attack enemies, you actually gain money, you can continue to buy upgrades, and like the encounter actually feels good. Like right now I just have this one. But, oh, here, there we go. See, so like I kill him and then I'm instantly brought here because the encounter is over. So this is awesome, guys. There's still work to be done for sure. Still need to add some more enemies and really start to increase the amount and variety of content. But the core game loop of upgrading and encounters are there. And it's going to be so much easier to throw in new content with the encounter system that I added now. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on this in the comments. Does this seem like a good system? Do using encounters seem like the right way to handle this? I'm really curious what you guys think, so let me know in the comments.